here we are looking at your golf swing from a side view, and really your address position looks great. You can see the measurements. You were measuring your shoulders and hips, how much they turn, tilt, and bend throughout the swing. And this is all in degrees, so we zeroed you out from here. So now you're either, you're going to bend forwards or backwards. You're going to tilt whichever shoulder or hip is lower, left or right in degrees, and then turn, O for open towards the target, C for closed in degrees. Okay. So in a good backswing, we're getting, 85 to 90 in rotation with our shoulder. So now they're also color coordinated through your 4 major positions: address, top, impact, and then finish. And green is good, yellow means we're close, red's kind of a red flag.
Okay.
So you can see a setup very similar to Stuart Appleby on the right.
Okay.
I like our address position from the side view. I like the posture. Our balance might be creeping a little bit towards the toes or the balls of the feet, which we don't want.
Okay.
We want to be in a stationary athletic position, not an agile athletic position. A lot of times we hear be in an athletic position and want to get on the balls of our feet because that's what we were taught in baseball.
Yeah.
Because you want to move. We don't want to move. We're swinging a 3-inch chunk of metal 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We want to stay very stationary. So one thing I just want to double check when we get out there in the lesson portion is, is our weight back in the back half towards our ankles or heels, or is it creeping up towards the front half? Because you'll see a lot of these guys, that toe line goes right up through the wrist on the front of the shoulder, hip line right on the hip bone. Shows that the majority of their weight is sitting in this area of their foot.
Okay.
So that's just one thing. Everything else, pretty good. So now we start the backswing here, drawing our box for posture. And as you start back, not a bad start. Very controlled with the body. We get a little bit kind of under the plane back here.
Okay.
We'd like to see it staying in what we call the cone of success, those 2 angled lines up the club and up off the shoulder. You'll see as Appleby starts back here, you can see how the club stays in front of his hands, but it's moving inside this cone. You keep the club face very square, meaning it's pointing still towards the ground or towards the ball, which is huge. A lot of people don't do that. So that's a big positive, is your club face isn't doing anything crazy yet.
Cool.
And then from there you take it up. And this is where it starts to get interesting. We just kind of collapse our wrists at the very top of our swing and get way back there.
Okay.
So here's kind of the top, right about there, of our swing versus a more controlled top position here. So here's 2 different looks at the top. How far back your club goes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have more speed or power.
Yeah.
The beauty of being hooked up to motion is we know the best players in the world rotate their shoulders with a 7-iron somewhere between 85 to 95 typically. So we measure length of swing more by how much our shoulders are rotating, not by how far back the club goes. Because you're going to have guys with limited range of motion in different parts of their shoulders, so they can still rotate 90, but they can only get to here. Other ones who can rotate 90 and they get a little bit more width and up here. When you start to collapse your hands behind you, you're actually narrowing your arc. Right?
Okay.
You're not keeping as wide of an arc. Then it gets a little bit harder to time because the only way for the club to get way back here is for us to be kind of collapsing in our wrists. So that means we have to, basically catapult this thing forward to get it back in front because it's way behind us.
Yeah.
Versus, you'll see a lot of these guys stop with the club pretty much right above their hands.
Okay.
That's a great position. He's rotated his shoulders probably in the low 90s. We've crept all the way up to 101 in our hips, so you can see his shoulder turns 101, hip turns 53, 2 yellow numbers. We want our hips down in the mid-high 40s,
okay,
and that'll bring this down into the mid-90s, and they'll both be green. And that'll also help with your hip and shoulder bend, which you'll see better from the front view, but you're kind of falling back onto your left side because of how far back you're swinging.
Okay.
Right? So notice how we don't see any daylight between his knees,
Mm-hmm.
and we see that there. Again, that's just from over-rotating too big of a swing. So we want to shorten this up because that's causing problems because right now your hands and club are getting so far behind you that when you start down, you have to hurry them up. So you start to throw the club back out in front of you. So notice here, we'll draw a red line up on where your hand started. Same thing here, where his hand started. Go back to the top. So now notice how your hands start to come out in front of where they started, so the club gets back out in front of your hands.
Okay.
And now you're starting to get out on the top side of our cone of success. Versus them dropping more right back down to where they started. He travels down the bottom half. Now this cone of success was coined by Mr. Hardy, one of the top teachers in the world, meaning if you can keep the club, above this line or under this line, you're going to be coming into the golf ball, 1 to 3 degrees, very minimal angle into the golf ball. Even if it's slightly out to in or into out, it produces very minimal curvature with a square club face. So if my face stays square, I'm either straight down the line or I'm, 1 to 3 degrees this way or 1 to 3 degrees this way, creating very minimal spin. So it's a very controllable shot. When we start to get on the outside of those lines, we start to come too much across the ball. And that starts to create the crazy spins, but it also creates crazy angles, meaning as you watch this swing, watch Mr. Appleby swing down this line, hits the ball, and notice how as he hits the ball, it looks like he's going to throw the golf club out to the middle of the green, where he wants the ball to go. So he's throwing the club to where he wants the ball to go, through the ball to his target. And that's kind of the mentality we want to have, especially for you where it's going to be more control-oriented in your golf swing. Because right now, we probably don't have much awareness of where we're throwing the club, but if you watch this and you go, where am I throwing the golf club when I hit the ball? Right?
Yep.
Throwing it left
Throwing
somewhere.
it left.
Trying to hit it straight.
Yep.
So you talk about how can I pull hook something as easy as cut something. Well, you have a club path that's coming out to in, and you have a pretty square face. So you get quick with your hands. That thing's going way left.
Okay.
You don't want to go left. You want the ball to get airborne, so your tendency is to try to keep the face open through impact. So you're leading with the heel, which is why you're tending to hit a lot of heel shots. But now notice what that creates.
It creates a spin.
Yep, off to the right.
Yeah.
So that's where you can hit. I mean, we're always going to be able to pull a shot or push fade or slice. But the more we can stay near the middle of this cone, the less dramatic that gets, right? You see the best players in the world slightly tug a shot, but they usually hit the back left of a green.
Yeah.
An amateur who's a 1 or 2 handicap might just be a yard or 2 off chipping.
Yeah.
For you, like we saw,
it's 60 yards.
We're 60 yards left.
Yeah.
We're in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Off the par 3 green. So that's a problem. We're out of bounds. We don't want to be out of bounds. So we got to change this path. I love how the club face stays fairly square, other than what you try to manipulate at an impact, just because your path isn't syncing up. I love that your body knows how to rotate. That's the beautiful thing with baseball players. They know how to rotate the body. So you're staying in great posture. That's very difficult for a lot of people. But we're just swinging too far left. So we got to shorten up your swing and get into a better top position where we're not so collapsed at the top and over-rotated.
Yeah, every once in a while I see the club head clear over here when I'm swinging. I'm like, I shouldn't be seeing that.
No, that's a problem. That's a problem. We want to fix that one.
Okay, yeah.
And then through the shot into a nice tall finish. We don't quite get all the way through it as well as in as balanced as we see Appleby, and we'll see that better from the front view. And that's just largely because you're swinging so hard left that you can't really quite complete the follow-through because you're swinging at yourself pretty much, right, when you swing out to in like that. Versus, if I swing from the slight inside out down my target line, so I'm throwing the club through this window, it kind of carries me into this finish. But when I come this way, I get jammed.
Okay.
And that's why you kind of see this abbreviated-ish follow through there with the lower half and that. So that's your swing from the side view.